last year I did quite a few games from this book called The Chess Secrets, Giant of, not innovation, I did Giants of Strategy. That is one of my favorite books ever. There is like another one, Heroes of Classic Game Chess, and there's the Giants of Innovation. So I intend to do one of each at least this week and next week. This is just one of those amazing books that anybody should be able to do that. And today we are also working on the chess-based software because, well, first of all, I think it's a I've grown up using that. So all my files and everything is here, and it's the most professional tool in the chess world, in my opinion. And besides that, my chess wasn't allowing me to upload these games there, and it was beginning to bug me a little. So I was just like, let's save my energy and time and just continue it here. So I see that the viewers are joining in more. Alright, great. So the first game is a game played by one and only Steinitz and versus Anderssen. And this was in 1866, which is so weird because chess is surprisingly one of the things that I do like about earlier centuries, because the more I am taking it healthcare ethics, just ethics and history wise, it gets quite but anyways, besides that, this was a great chess game. We are gonna enjoy that part of 1860s. And alright, so this was very interesting because I teach a lot of kids and a lot of private lessons, and they all have this they all want to start attacking pretty immediately, but I have to tell them, don't play moves such as f4 right away. And then there goes a Steinitz and he plays that, so kind of interesting don'ts. Anyways, so this idea is with, well, f4 is obviously a pretty great idea, nothing wrong with that, but that's not, we're not looking at this game purely just for its openings. I've actually played King's Gambit few times with white, but I've had it way more happen to me as black. Anywho, taking is a very usual thing. I still do that because I want to play this Queen h4s and I want to enjoy an easy win. It rarely actually goes that way, but d5 is another one that you definitely should be aware of. It's more of a personal choice, but I usually take it, and I've tried this g5 a lot in faster chess games compared to classical. g5 is definitely doable, but it makes it a little questionable when we start thinking about the development aspect of it. Right now, nothing is attacking f4, so even if you want to be creative and hold your pawn, I would still recommend trying to develop. Maybe you can try to come over to e7 and then g6. Maybe you can try knight c6, nothing wrong with that. Ideally, if you could do d5, that would be perfect. I know there are a lot of things with like bishop d6 at some point with like knight. It's so many different lines. Musa, we are on ChessBase, not a website, just software, and as the most professional software, it's as professional as softwares get. It's one of the first ones that I started with, and I'm like, it's so easy to store your files and databases and organize everything, but that's not the point. And I wish you guys could see this, but GMP, she's sitting right here, right behind the computer, literally, and he's having fun because we got to go out for about an hour or two today under sun. I'll be posting pictures on that for those of you who are interested. But alright, so g5. I want to get a little bit of opinions from you guys. So what do you think about this g5? Should white be happy? Would you do this as black? What do you think? How do you think white should continue? Because this g5 is clearly saying, well, you're not going to take my pawn, but at the same time, it's also saying I ain't going to be short castling anytime soon. So, what do you think? What do you think about this position? What should white do? And basically, besides defending the pawn, what is black's other ideas? Any opinion is welcome. Just make sure to type. I remember last year, well, actually last year around March, it wasn't as clear. Actually, March was still pretty good, the first half. But pre-pandemic wise, we would go to the club. There would be some live audience, well, I mean physical audience, and then there would be a bunch of you guys online. And it was kind of fun because it took me a while to be comfortable to teach online and in person, like at the same time, and so I wasn't reading the chat as efficiently. And like Ben Simon would read the chat, and like he would be behind the computer and he would like read the chat out loud, and I thought that was so cool. But we are not doing that right now because, well, I finally gotten comfortable with teaching online, and the cat is incapable of reading. Alright, so Gary, you are correct. Yeah, this does weaken the king side, and it is a good idea to try and use that from white. So something like d4 definitely welcomed. This bishop, uh oh, the cat is moving the camera. Pishi, you gotta move, good boy. Alright, so another idea is with the bishop. Bishop trying to go to c4 because c4, looking at f7, already having some ideas coming up. So and that's what Steinitz did. Bishop c4, easy peasy. Trying to simply go, well, develop. Nothing wrong with developing. Ehsan, best of luck to you. Public speaking is can be very fun if you're passionate about the subject. Yeah, I think teaching online chess has helped a lot with that aspect because sometimes I get to be a little dorky and a little goofy, as my friends say. So it's good to know that I can still have those characteristics and be able to do this online too. Yeah, it's really hard to be always completely professional and completely know exactly what to say. Kudos to people who can do that. I think Caleb is one of them. But anyways, so for after bishop c4, well, this part, like up until here, I'm pretty comfortable. Okay, well, white tried to do a gambit, black accepted the gambit. Black is trying to still hold on to the pawn, and black is still pretty comfortable with this position. This move, g4, that's what I don't really understand. This move, I really do not understand it because I mean it makes sense in the way that, well, I mean if you move this knight, then there's gonna be a queen h4, but is it really worth it to push this knight to go to e5? Because where else would the knight go? I'm not gonna play knight d4 and block my own pawn, and I'm not gonna do weird sacrifices when my position is not ready. But when I do knight e5, first of all, the g4 pawn is pretty under pressure. Second of all, your f7 is another clear target. So instead of trying to go for g4, black should have tried to go for bishop g7. It would have been more logical. You already played g5, might as well go for bishop g7. If there will be some d4, sure. But now I could try to maybe hope for a little push over here. Maybe I could try and get my knight out. Maybe I could try to get this guy out. I still have a lot of choices. It's not the end of the world. But when I play g4, it's extremely sharp and it's extremely unprepared. So I don't like g4. Alright, so after g4, white continues with knight e5, logical check. Don't do g3, it's just weird. Make sure you do the normal moves. Even if your position is good but it's not as perfect as you want it to be, it doesn't mean that you have to go off the rail and play something like g3. Make sure you always keep your king as safe as humanly possible. But that doesn't necessarily mean castling. That's another great video that we did last year. When should we castle? And I believe that's a hot topic in the upcoming book that I'm writing with my brother, so keep your eyes out for that too. Okay, so in the game, It's black to move. Black played knight h6. What do we think about this? Is knight h6 good? Is something with... let's go back. Is knight f6 a better idea? Is f3? So I'm gonna give you a few options and then I'm gonna wait for some feedback. Which one do you think is better? Ehsan, I do not intend to do my own Twitch channel, at least for foreseeable future, especially because the only thing that I do besides, well, the chess that I do here is study for foreseeable future, so it's not really my cup of tea to sit in front of Twitch and just study. Sounds like a very chill thing to do, just silent studying and letting other viewers join to study, and it sounds like a horrible idea, but it might pay off. You never know what people like. So what do you think? What do you think Black wants to do? Hello, Hasa. Oh, I really wish you guys could see what I see. There's the cutest cat sitting right behind the chessboard in my laptop, and it is just a view. Any suggestion? Knight f6, knight h6, f3, which one would you want to choose? Alright, I see knight f6 is a solid idea. Anybody likes moving pawn to f3? Okay, I see few f3 votes. I see few mainly knight f6 so far. Okay, so the thing is, knight f6 makes sense, but it's kind of interesting because this is Black's oldest defense. Like, this move, knight f6, has been played from like 1600s, which is so weird when I think about it. And this game was in 1866. So if you can call this move knight f6 older than 1866, then we definitely have a interesting thing on our mind. Knight f6 is definitely possible, and if something like queen e1, then you can definitely take that, but your f7 is a problem, and I am not entirely happy with this. Something maybe d5, maybe h5, maybe b3. Anyways, just move this bishop somewhere. Next g4 is going to fall. If bishop h5 makes sense, because then you want to take over here without any defense. So I'm gonna go back and move this knight f6 around. What about knight maybe c6? Does that look interesting? You would be giving your f7, but knight c6 is interesting because if take, then bishop c5, and Black gains a little bit more activity, and even you wouldn't really go for queen exchange. You would do your best to try to make the game as crazy as humanly possible, which is a good thing in this situation, because, well, Ehsan, there's not a problem with knight h6. I'm just providing other options. I think this knight c6 would be the best try, and if you try to take, then boom, bishop c5. I'm going for easy peasy checkmate on f2. Try to cover it, boom, g3. You eat the rook, now again attacking your queen, and then developing, and next knight's coming to g4. Well, if you didn't allow me, then I can actually form a pretty solid attack. And yeah, there is this rook missing, but it's a very scary position. I wouldn't exactly want to be right in this position. Anyways, this is just another option to have. And this was, for example, played about 100 years. This exact position was played 100 years after this game of Steinitz Anderssen. Sorry, Andres Anderssen. I'm gonna have an issue pronouncing that. The position that I'm showing you right now, this game, this exact moves were played in a game of Goncharenko and Alexiev in 1963. So almost 100 years after the Steinitz game. Anyways, this is such a weird position. I'm just giving myself a little headache about it. But as you can see, checkmate is very close and black actually won after this move, which is not really surprising. After take, there could be check here, queen e3, so pretty much checkmate in 2, or you lose your queen, which is again not really ideal. Anywho, this was just to show you a little bit of crazy things that happens when you have piece activity. That's why now we want to look at f3 just a little bit. What do we think? Does this f3 look interesting? Again, knight c6 is the most interesting way to continue, but what about f3? Does this gain some cool stuff for us? And if you're just tuning in, we are looking at one game that was played between Steinitz and Anderssen. Please, hopefully I'm saying this right. In 1866, and if you just witnessed that crazy active line, that was a game within a game. That game was happened in 1963, so 100 years after the Steinitz game. So we are just promoting for piece activity. Now, what do we think about this f3? What do you think white should do? I kind of like this just going for d4 because I am not about to take this, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to spend the time to just move my bishop or even my knight, because we just saw what happened in the last one. So let's just go for after f3, just push pawn, no bishop c5s, no funny business there. And so after d4, white, what do you think white should do? Oh, I'm sorry. After white plays d4, what do you think black should do? Black has few options to still try and keep an active game. You can develop this knight, you can try to take over here, give check. Any preference? That is true. After bishop c5, d4 still did exist. Yeah, exactly, Hassan. That's why knight c6 was the better choice instead of f3 to block d4 as well. Good thinking. However, if right now, for example, take, queen h3, and then you can also just bring out your knight, stop all this funny, fun stuff on f7, and this is a doable game. Nothing entirely wrong with it, but if you were going to play knight h6, you might as well start it with knight h6. Hello, Exquisite. I'm glad you're joining us. We are looking at a fun game that Steinitz played back in 1866. So you can. There were very few amazing chess players around that time. One of them was obviously Steinitz. He is the first known and accepted world champion. So we're looking at a game that he played, and he is playing it as white. So after d4, knight f6 is also possible, but I'm not gonna get too deep in that because this is again the same ideas with trying to, white has such a better center, but black has a little bit of piece activity going on my king. So yep, yes, exactly, that's why there's a queen on h3. instead of having developed other pieces. Exactly why. Yep, see, like, there's so many different ways that this position could continue, but the bottom line is that black doesn't have enough pieces to form an attack just yet. So, in the game, Anderssen played knight h6, trying to bring some of those pieces to the game. d4. Now, again, f3 was possible, but again, knight c3, and it could have. I mean, the thing is, like, when you play f3, you expect take. Whoops, you expect take. But take doesn't necessarily have to happen, and that's why this doesn't exactly work. So, after d4, f3 is still too early. What else can we do? How else can we try to develop even just a little bit? Any suggestions? To be fair, I mean, there are a lot of things that white can do, but, sorry, black can do to face the pretty awesome center and piece activity by white, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually good ideas. So, f3 was a suggestion that should always be considered. d5, spicy. d5 is too aggressive. You don't really have a good follow-up after that. d6 makes sense. You want to kick this knight, and now when the knight moves, has to go to d3. Now you can potentially do f3. Very interesting comments, and the chat is looking at this position. It would seem it's either between two GMs or two 900s. Well, Steinitz is no 900. Neither is Anderssen. Yep, this is the same Anderssen that I remember, which I'm pretty sure it is. That one was also German. This one is also German, so. To be completely fair, this is a great idea to continue. If you were to play f3 before you play d6, it's possible, but it only gives a little bit of this knight c3 chance. And now if I play, this is like, I mean, there's again nothing wrong with this, and this idea with f3. So in this specific position, Steinitz has 3 games that he has played as white. So again, and he has won every single one of them. So the conclusion is, don't let Steinitz play e4, e5, f4 with you. But besides that, it doesn't really matter if you play f3 now or not. d6 is something that I would do. It's more solid. It forces you to put the knight back, and now I get the chance to decide, do I want to play f3? Do I want to play potentially bishop g7? Can I do knight c6? It gives me more options. I don't have to immediately commit to f3. And the other thing is, after f3, white is never going to take on f3. So white might simply do this knight c3, and now if I decide to, let's say, take, it's possible, but I can't get my pieces to work. I can't bring out my bishops. I can't bring out my knights. They're all blocked. So it does not make any sense to just take f3 and just start going with it. In Farsi, I think we have this expression. Let me try to remember it. Dampai badas mitue. Yeah, like it means like you hold a slipper and you run, which is supposed to be meaning that you like the slipper is your weapon and you're running with just like a slipper weapon, which makes more sense in Farsi. So here's a little pun too. Haha. And anyways, so now the thing is, knight c3 again is possible. It would be a transposition, but so is bishop f4 for white. And we try to, well, the main thing we should do as white is make sure that we're developing and make sure that we are, well, not making weird mistakes such as taking. That's a good start. So, what do you think white should do? As white, you know you have the better center, you know you have these two interesting pieces, you have a lot of options to go around with your pieces, but your king is a little bit questionable. So how can you try to make that a little bit less questionable, to put it? Oh, well, I grew up in Iran and I had to go to school in Iran, so I learned a lot of like different, more day-to-day languages, I guess. If you weren't born in Iran, you might have not really known these slangs, I guess. Yeah, G3, very interesting. And the thing with G3 is that, so one thing that I don't think I was very clear on was that this game, um, this specific game is the 10th game of their match between Steinitz and Anderssen. And the quite fun part of it is that this exact same position had happened again in the second round of the match. And in the second round, Anderssen had made the mistake and he played queen to h3, which obviously we're not going to go king g1, obviously we're not going to go king f2 because I don't want you to give me checks. So king e1, and quite funny because if queen goes to g2 and knight f2 and your queen is a little bit trapped, my friend. Next move bishop f1 and it's like already backpipe time for the queen. If you were smart and you just tried to run away with the queen, because again, remember knight f4 coming up, your queen is going to be trapped. So even if you try to run, I can just develop. And this is the second game of their match, in which Steinitz did win the game. After, I want to say, about 20 more moves or so, Steinitz continued with just developing, got the bishop out, got this knight a little better, got the queen out, and it was a very interesting game. But besides that, so let me go back. So let's say now Steinitz has learned from his Anderssen has learned from his mistake on this in the second game, is not going to play queen h3 anymore. So let's say goes queen to e7. Now, how should we continue as white? You can easily see the advantage coming up, right? The super cool center, the pieces being all sharp and ready to poke around. Hello, I'm Annie. So where else? How else? What else am I supposed to get out? Yes, knight c3, the easiest way to continue. Oh, hi David. I have played against Daisy. It's been a long time. I believe we played together in the first round of World Junior Championship 2013. I was a baby. I was 15 years old. I miss being 15. And I actually managed to get a little bit of a better position out of the opening, and then I messed it up. And transition to middle game to end game. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, I'm glad that everybody are looking at this knight c3. Good job. Knight c3, let's say black is also sharp and still wants to go ahead with trying and exchanging some of this material. Now what should white do? I'm Manny, that's also a very great question. Why would Pishi be checking these Grumpeld lines? this position, I think the main things to consider is how am I going to save or exchange this bishop? Because if we decide, I got one wrong answer, haha. d5 doable, but not really great, because now if let's say this knight gets to e5, then the black is kind of actually holding this. So you have to be very careful. And if you play d5, you are extremely committed to playing this e5 right after it too. But you have to be very careful because this doesn't exactly work. This sacrifice is not ready. You can't just go around and do weird stuff. You don't have. If your rook was on e1, yeah, I would get behind that too. But it's not. So you have to be very careful. This does not work. It looks like it does, but it doesn't. White cannot play like this. You need more pieces. So, now it's quite interesting because in this game, Steinitz played bishop b3, and it really puzzles me because Steinitz I believe in the game 8, well actually not me, the analysis on done by Chess Secrets. In game 8, Steinitz kind of messed it up a little, and he played this d5 and he ended up losing. But it's not what puzzles me. What puzzles me is that they would just play the same opening over and over again. So when Steinitz was white, there would be King's Gambit. Game 2, 4, I'm not sure about what happened in game 6, game 8, and game 10, Steinitz is white. And it's this game. It's the same exact first few moves, which is really just why. I mean, today when we follow the world championship matches, it's so much more diverse. Black has, I mean, well, Berlin aside, there's so many different ways to play it. There's Nailov, there's Petrov. I don't believe there was a French in the last one. So, but it's not just every single line, every single game. Oh, so my frustration aside, yes, you did. Yep. All right. So bishop b3 is a good idea, and the one thing that I would really like to know more about is when these players, like, how did they modify it? Because Steinitz was the strongest chess player of his time. So that's the one thing. Like, I know that a lot of the different teams, different countries, different nationalities have different ways of approaching how to prepare for a tournament. Especially when in Soviet Union there was the whole concept of teamwork, because if I'm not mistaken, the government was very big on the chess, and chess was one of the something that was considered so noble, which again comes up in the Queen's Gambit too, haha, the TV show. So it's quite interesting because Steinitz didn't really have that huge team. Rarely anybody had that type of teamwork. So if you had a question about a move, you had to sit there and you had to think yourself. There wasn't this databases, there was no internet, there were no computer, there were no engines to go and figure it out on your own. So the way that the players would find answers to the questions they had about a specific move in chess, it really does amaze me. So yeah, if I was ever gonna get deep in the history of chess, that is one of the extremely important things I would want to know on how did they just, like, because when you think on your own, you get to a block. So that's why I like bouncing ideas off of other people. But if you don't have that team, but yeah, that's just one of the historical aspects of chess that I really wanted to just, it never stops to amaze me. Anywho, let's get back to this cool match between Steinitz and Anderssen. Let's say bishop g7, bishop e3, finally take. If you were to make a mistake in castle, this is quite funny because just queen d2 and your knight is a little in a pickle. and the only way to defend the knight is to play like queen f6, but then I'll attack that, and if I could just get a knight f4, so like maybe bishop e7. If you move this rook, boom, knight f4, and your queen is trapped. So it's very interesting, yeah. So let's go back to if not castle, and if bishop takes on b3. Now we take back, c6. Now, well, we just looked at some cool ideas that white could do trying to develop. How do you think white should continue now? And yes, Exquisite, I have read about it, and yeah, that's why Fisher was so, his life was so amazing, because he was alone going against, I mean, he had some support from the government, and he had a lot of fans, but he was alone. He didn't have anybody to do the teamwork with, at least chess-wise. So it's so weird. I mean, it doesn't like. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, he really did a humongous job with going against, um, mixing chess and politics and all the things that he had to face. And well, we got Queen's Gambit out of that. So yep, I own it up. I suck with pronunciations. I'm not gonna be able to fix that anytime soon. I'd be sure to work on it, but don't expect much. The best I can give you is Steinitz. I have problems pronouncing Anderssen at right distance right now, which is weird. I shouldn't have problem with that. Anyways, alright. Ah, thanks. Well, not necessarily queen c1, though. Queen d2. Try to go for this, but a little more active. Knight gotta go to g8 if this knight wants to stay alive, and now. Are we finally in a position to start breaking these bad boys out? Ideally, I would want to have the rook on e1 before I do that, but as a famous philosopher Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want, so I like that song. King f2 is possible, but it still feels a little. My problem is if I move this rook, and if there's no more defense on this part, then this h pawn can become a little monstrous. So. Stefan, that is true. I wasn't mentioning as in Anderssen being Soviet Union player. He was playing for Germany, but my point was just how it doesn't make any sense. I can't understand how they would all alone come up with answers to the questions. Right now, it's so weird because when I'm preparing for an exam, I have way too many resources that I don't know which one to go for. The problem isn't the lack of material, it's the extent of it. And it's like I study from this, and then I go recap from that, and then I do questions from this, and then I go find the answer to question in there. So it's like 5 different contents review and 5 different, it's like taking exams and But yes, I hope I made this confusion going on. Exquisite, I wouldn't really do King f2 just yet because I want to be sure that you're not gonna push this h pawn. So what about something in the center? Can I push anything in there? e5, thank you, yes. And the fun thing about e5 is that now that we forced this knight away, this knight can't really go anywhere, can't really get involved in the game, and that's what I want. I don't want your knight to get involved. So you have to be very careful as black, and if you can't really take on e5. It's taking on e5 opens a whole different can of worms. You could easily take back now bishop c5 coming up, now knight trying to go around coming up, and now rook d1 is another thing, so you shouldn't take that. Black correctly played this d5, trying to still keep some of this curtains draped, and drapes on the kings. I guess that was a better one. Now white still wants to get pieces out, so let's go. Whoa, wrong thing. Bishop g5. Let's say queen e6. And now what? I really want to start using my pieces. I want to use my knights. I want to get my rook rolling. I want my queen to be in a better spot. Where? How? Why? Definitely King's Gambit. This is you would not get this position from anything else if not King's Gambit. Knight f4. The problem with knight f4 is that the queen gets to go to f5 and is attacking my bishop. I don't want that. Knight c5. Interesting, but let me poke your brain a little. Your knight on d3 is pretty good. You might want to go to f4. You might want to go to b4. Your knight on d3 is very active. Maybe anything else? Ricardo, I am so glad that you are worried about Pishi's well-being. Pishi is right here, napping right behind the laptop, which is so weird. I moved my setup around so we could capture His Majesty on his tree, but now he goes and he hides behind the laptop. So, what to do? Cats, right? Let me try to throw in more hints. How about this knight? Could this knight be a little bit more activated? My rook is doing a little bit of something here. It's holding your rook captive. So any other ideas? I like knight c7, just not the right knight. Yeah, let's go for this one. Knight a4. I want to do knight b6, eat your rook to start with, and I also want to do knight c5, given the choice. Now, if knight tries to go to a6, alright, I couldn't do knight b6, no biggie. Now I got rid of this c3 knight that I couldn't really do anything with. I couldn't play knight e4, no knight b5s, no knight e2s. That knight was just a little extra. So, in the game, black played queen g6. Now what? Can I eat this pawn, pretty please? I really do want to eat that pawn. To be fair, if black tried to be funny and play queen c8 to stop this eating, it wouldn't really work because I would still have pawn to e6. Now if you try to take it, perfect. I'll be taking that, and you can't really take it because I have this cool rook e1 stuff. And if you try to run, I'll just get this rook involved. Anyways, let's go back to not queen c8, let's go queen g6. Yep, I do like the idea of rook e1, but I want to eat this. Now I have knight d6 coming up. Let's say you try to get pieces out, boom. And this move, I think, was my moment in the game, because this is such a weird move. Like, I thought about simply trying to develop. I thought maybe just king f2, rook e1. I thought about maybe rook a6, queen a5. I thought about different ways to go about it, but I never thought about this move, and that's why it's such a great move. So, white to move, what to do? I'm gonna give you guys a minute because there's still a few moves left on the board, about 10 or so, and I really do want to get to it. So, what do you think is the best move for white? Nope, not queen b4. Nope, not e6. Bishop going to h6. Wait. Oh, I guess you mean instead of knight going to h6? Hmm. It's doable, but um, even if you got rid of my white, even if you got rid of that white's bishop on g5, it wouldn't really help you as much. Nope, I don't really see anybody saying this. No, rook a6 was one of my initial ideas too. Nope, ain't gonna work. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and spill the beans. h3. I'm just like, oh my god. I did not see this move. I did not even bother thinking about this move when I was looking at it. I thought if I want to get my rook activated, I should go for king f2, but that was not the case. This is so weird because there are like white has trying to like do a little like explosion. So in order to do that, you need to gather a little more material to build up your explosion, which is a weird analogy, but it's kind of what's going on right now because now white wants to try and open up the center a little bit, but you have to be very careful. Exactly, h2 is so logical, but I didn't think about it. Yeah. Let's say black makes a mistake to try and stop queen b4s. We just get boom, boom, and now we get queen f4, attacking on g4, attacking on f7. If you try to be funny with h5, boom, and then queen f5, and you lose your queen. So that's one way to go about it. Another way is, let's say black doesn't make this mistake and black plays f6. Now keep in mind, if you take it, I can take on h6, and if you take over here, just queen check, and this is quite miserable for black. So black didn't do this. Black played bishop to f8 instead of taking. Bishop goes to f8. Now, this was another holy cow moment. And here white plays knight b7. These might be a little out of scope, but they are such great ideas because you play knight b7, you don't just want to play knight c5, you also want to start creating more threats on the queen side. So let's say knight f5, boom, bishop f4. Defending my g3, simple move, and also beginning to get more access to your queen side. Let's say take, simple moves, just king f2. I'm just gonna defend my g3, no biggie. Attack, and this was another pretty cool move. Don't rush eating because that would not really end up well for you. A lot of checks coming up, a lot of takes coming up. Don't do that. Black could actually end up winning this. Your king is super weak. And I have a cat shaking my camera. Kitty, you gotta move your big cute. Alright. So let's say no bishop h8. Let's say we are smart and we take this pawn back. I'm defending my g3. Now I want to eat your rook. Now, in the game, black played bishop h6. However, if rook g8 was played, this was this move I actually did find, which was pretty interesting. Just, not wrong piece. Just queen a5. I want to go queen c7. I simply want to poke around your king and enjoy that. And so in the game, black was smart, played bishop h6. Now, white's to move, what do you think we should do? We are approaching our final positions, so what do you think we gotta do? I agree, bishop h6 is a little bit too late. What's the first things we should think about before we start thinking about queen b4 and such? I think rook h6 is definitely reasonable, but we could do it a little bit better, a little bit faster. Yeah, knight c5. Good job. Knight c5. When the king moves, now boom. Even if you went to e7, I would still boom you. And let's say you take back. Now, what do you think we can do? Basically, think about what's the fastest way of winning. Anything to eat? Any cool checks? Rook e1 is definitely interesting, but I just want to eat my free stuff. It's a full piece, why not? If you try to trap it, I'll just run away. It's a full piece. In the game, black tried to continue, played queen h5, now again, check. And this move was amazing. I'm gonna let you guys figure this one out. So now it is white's to move. What do you think we should do? Not necessarily mate in one, but rook h1, exactly. Good job, everybody. If you eat it, now I will give you checkmate coming up very, very soon. Like 2 more moves, and there we go. And if you don't take it, let's go back, back, back. Let's say knight g4, just king g1, you can't even eat it now. f2, king g2, and well, you still have that extra knight, so we're gonna use that extra knight. And we are finally going to win another full piece too. And this is actually where Anderssen resigned. So this was a very, very amazing example of piece activity. Another question of how should we keep our king safe? Because clearly I didn't need to castle. And clearly my opponent supposedly got the king into the right square, and how much material matters. There are all of these concepts that we keep hearing about all the time, but we never exactly fully understand. So this was a perfect example of it, and what I really like about it is that it was a full match, and they kept playing this opening every time Steinitz was white. They played it in game 2, 4, 8, 10, at least. So, very interesting game. And with that, I am going to end this stream, but be sure to join us on Twitch for in about, I'm gonna give it about 7 minutes. So now it's 7 Central Time. Make sure to join us in about 7 minutes on Twitch, so we can do game review for 2 hours straight. Hopefully GM Pishi will stop hiding behind the laptop and will join us. So I am going to leave our STL chess on Twitch here, so make sure to join us, and we are gonna run the stream there. Send your games to me on Lichess. You are more than welcome to send those links. Yes, I'm Manny. We made some adjustments, and we are hoping to make a little bit more time for viewers to send games. So yes, exactly. Basically, clap, clap, game review. I'll see you soon. Make sure to join me on Twitch for the remainder of the next 2 hours. I'll see you in about 7 minutes.